I'm your host, Apolla Asteria, and we are still setting up for tonight's show, so sorry, having a little difficulties here. Let me know if you can all hear me, see me okay. So I am here with Matthew and Megan, the Divine Mrs. M and Mathues Imhotep, and we are here in Sedona, Arizona. I'm actually on my way back from Disclosurecon, which was a pretty enlightening weekend over in Pine Top, Arizona, White Mountain. And we had a really good time there this last weekend. Actually, Matthew and Megan weren't there with me, but I was there with a lot of really incredible speakers. Jim Goodall, who else was there? Mike Barra, John DeSouza, Doc Skinner, of course, threw on the whole event. So yeah, we had a really good time. I actually, and as a matter of fact, Travis Walton from Fire in the Sky was also there. And we had a really incredible time actually shooting guns with him. And we did a really cool petroglyph side expedition after the event with him and a petroglyph expert. So it was pretty awesome. We really had a good time. It's good to see everyone in the chat here. Oh my gosh, I only get to do a show once a week, so I really miss everyone. It's only once a week on my YouTube channel now, so it's good to see everyone on here. But yeah, we're in Matthew and Megan's amazing humble abode here in Sedona right now, and I'm excited to get into tonight's show with them. But before we get into it, I'm going to go ahead and share my website with you all, because if you want to help fund my show and keep me going, please go ahead and check out shamanspears.com. I make uniquely handcrafted energy channeling devices, which I invented myself. They all have copper coils, crystals, magnets, and sand I collect from sacred places around the world down the insides. And they're also painted on the outside with crop circles that have been found around the world. Besides that, they are actually all charged onto an energetic collective. So every new one I make makes the whole collective stronger. Every person who has their own spear and charges their own spear also charges the whole collective. And I've sold them to a lot of very interesting people. So pretty fascinating. I have these amazing feather headdresses and I Believe in Humans t-shirts that have the show logo on the back. I believe there's only like 11 of those left, and then I'll make a new design. But they say I believe in humans with flying saucers for the radio show audience out there. And of course, my amazing Organite creation. So go ahead and check out shamanspears.com. And it's basically like donating to my show, except you get a free gift in return. So, Matthew and Megan, it's so good to be here with you guys. I'm not used to actually being physically with someone in person when doing these shows, so this is interesting. Where do I start? Tonight's show, I know we wanted to get into accessing ancient knowledge, and you two can definitely talk for hours on that, so I don't even know where to start here. I think first, I'd like you to explain your seal here, Mathues.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, many of you that follow me, I've been bringing through hidden wisdom, next level sacred geometry. I like to call it the metamechanics of the universe. It's the creation codes that I've been cracking. And this is just a new wood plate, like a grid that people were requesting that they can put their stones on and the like. And so the energy is very powerful from it because of the sequences that are hidden codes from the Fibonacci. There's like layers of information that I've been decoding. And well, it's interesting. It's because it's also being downloaded from my higher self. And so we're going to talk about a number of different things tonight. You also may recognize us from Deep Disclosure. We haven't done one of those in a while because, well, there's a lot of secret things going on. The White Hats are very busy behind the scenes, and we've always told you we can't talk about operations while they're unfolding, but we'll see what we can hint at. And so, yeah, it's really great to be here because there's just so many exciting things that are happening. And, when you go watch TV, obviously, that is a depressant. Stay away from that. And so let's see what Megan has to say as an introduction.
Hi, guys. Nice to see you all again in the chat there. So many of you know me as the Divine Miss M. I've been all over YouTube saying crazy stuff for a few years now. And but behind the scenes, I work with people that are involved in the financial reset and also bringing new technologies out to the planet. And so as an interdimensional telepath, I help to guide those procedures. And also I'm here to teach people about these ancient wisdoms. And one of my jobs is to take the ancient wisdoms and the esoteric knowledge and make it palatable and easy to understand for the 3D world that we're living in today. Because even though we once had these wisdoms, we're kind of going through this process in a new way. In the past, people approached ascension through abstinence, from abstaining from human experience. And this time around, people are attempting to ascend in a 3D world, overcoming the trappings of safety and security. And I think that that's the ideas and illusions around that. And I think it's really interesting what's going on right now in the world, because it's bringing all of that stuff up. And so there is a lot of ancient wisdom that I think people are beginning to tap into again, as we move higher and higher into the consciousness. But it's kind of one of those interesting things where you raise your vibration and then the information is just available to you. So one of the things that you can do to tap into those ancient wisdoms is just doing the inner work. And this last couple of years, I think, has been a huge challenge in that for everybody, because there's a lot of things that people are afraid of. There's a lot of things that are uncertain. And for many of us, it looks like we're watching the world end. But in order for there to be a new world, which I think a lot of us have seen coming to fruition, the old world does have to go away. And so it's been quite an interesting time, and also and a really good time to kind of get rooted into these ancient wisdoms and knowledge. And so my stuff is my area of focus right now is on the hierarchy and cosmogenesis, getting an awareness of how the universe actually works. We live in a world of illusions, and the illusions are dropping. The veils are dropping, but there is stuff that is true. And I'm in the business of spreading that truth, as my cohorts are as well.
That was a really incredible introduction, Megan. Yeah, I feel that I agree with all those points you just said about everything kind of coming to the surface right now. It's really interesting to see. And I think that has a lot to do with the energy we're moving out of the age of Pisces and moving into the age of Aquarius. I think all these sort of negative energies that we're dealing with right now is what's being brought to the surface so that the light can kind of wash it out. It needs to be exposed for us to clear it out, definitely. And, I think right now this energy we're moving into is more to do with our own personal connection with the divine, which it really hasn't been as much in, the last couple thousand years or so, in the last age that we've been in. And I think all the old structures are breaking down. So it's interesting to see where things are going, but I definitely feel that right now we're clearing this older energy out before we can move into this new energy.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. It's my turn. So yeah, let's see. What can I tell you about a little bit? When I put my hand up around the new financial system, there really is one. And we really are connected to it. I've been behind the scenes for a long time working on, white hat banking system stuff. And so you probably, if you listen to Deep Disclosure, you'd know that. But basically, we really are very connected to the people that are doing that. And our own coin and our own bank and things that we've talked about are very much aligned to that. And so without revealing too much, there is a new system coming. It is not quite what everybody expects. In fact, all the banter about the QFS is not entirely true. In fact, that was a Chinese system that they were trying to implement. The Chinese wanted to kind of get the upper hand in the crypto market and all that kind of stuff. Some people understand some of the behind the scenes thing with how they wanted to do a cashless society in a way that they might have done that was, don't touch that bill. It's got a virus on it. And anyway, their QFS system, a virus attacked it about 3 months ago and tore it up from the inside out. And so they're no longer in the new financial system game. The white hats are definitely in charge of things that are unfolding there. And there's actually very little I can say about when that's happening and what it entirely looks like. But as I'm able to, I'm definitely going to show up here and share that through this channel because I vibe with our sister here so much. And we've just always felt like, these superheroes behind the scenes and those willing to come out front and bare their soul need to be aligned. And so a little bit more about my background, one thing that we wanted to kind of talk about in relevance to the hidden wisdom and the like, there's more things going on that meets the eye relevant to ancient future technology. Like there's a lot more time travel. There's a lot more exciting things about the science, the quantum reality of things that were, figured out perhaps in the future and that have been brought to the past. And I was going to share a little story about, I think I highlighted or made a hint at this in the last time that I was on your show, that I would get into that another time. But I've had the pleasure of having a cosmic time traveler scientist from the future grace my life for a decade, about 20 years ago. And it was wild, there was many eye-opening things that he revealed to me and really it's volumes. And I'm hoping to put that content into, fiction type storytelling, Hollywood style. And you do see more and more of this coming out. Like there's a show called The Fringe, rather. It's not The Fringe is really cool. It's like X-Files on steroids, and it's releasing all this interesting stuff. But at the core of it is the premise that there's transdimensional realities superimposed over this one. And they like open a riff and they go and they see themselves like 10 years in the future. They meet themselves, identical selves, right? And then they do that a couple times where there's these additional realities, like more advanced 10 years out into the future, each one of them. And so that's what this cosmic scientist told me, that, we are in a kind of some people like to talk about it as a simulation and these timelines and all this kind of stuff. And the Mandela effect is really caused by the collapse of these transdimensional realities becoming one, unity reality. And so he was downloading me about that, some 25 years ago. Actually, it was about that, because I was about 25. And it was interesting when I went to Egypt for the first time. I had a very profound experience because I was being introduced to like the head guard of the Sphinx and the head guard of the Great Pyramid. When I was introduced to the head guard of the Great Pyramid, he was like freaking out. He was like kind of stuttering and, like my friend who introduced me to him, he's like, what the heck's going on? And the guy was like, I know this guy. And my friend's like looking at me all upset. Like, you said this was your first time to Egypt. And I'm like, well, in this lifetime, as far as I know, in this body. And anyway, so I left the room because it was awkward. And he came back and said, wow. When he came out of the room, I'm like, what was that all about? He goes, well, wow, that guy said that he saw you inside of the Great Pyramid. And I deduce from another story, when I came back from Egypt the first time and met with my cosmic scientist friend, I was like, I remember, some past lives building pyramids. And he goes, I've been waiting 5 years for you to tell me that, right? And he was literally like, now I can disclose some stuff to you. And he essentially said that when he met me the first time, he's like, you remember I sort of turned white as a sheet, my eyes bugged out? I'm like, yeah, that was awkward. And he goes, well, that's because of this story I'm going to tell you. He goes, I went to Egypt in the 70s, and because I was involved in secret space program, they brought me behind the museum into a secret room, and they laid out all these items on a table, and they go, these are the items that were found in Imhotep's tomb. It was like disclosed to the public that there was nothing in there, because what he was looking at was items from the future, like an iPhone and an iPad, and before Windows was invented.
No way.
Windows logo. And then he goes, and there was a Polaroid at the time, we had Polaroids back then. So we didn't say a pic or a photo or whatever. He said, there was a Polaroid and it was of you. And I'm like, of me? He goes, yeah. And there was a woman next to you. And he said, I need to disclose that you have been traveling through time when the gates of opportunity, I talk about it as the Golden Gate, and these, things that I write about in my book relevant to when humanity can ascend into higher levels of consciousness, is at these opportune times when we're aligned to the central sun. And he's like, if we don't optimize, this gate, we're in big trouble. We've been doing a time loop. We've done this 6 times before. And if you don't optimize it, you're going to travel back in time and you're going to plant some seeds, tweak the reality and try it all over. And I was like, are you kidding me? No way. No, I'm not. We're going to get it right this time. And so anyways, that's a premise to say that, wow, the timeline reality, the time travel, all these things are way more, factual than we realize. And of course, do I have anything to prove all this from? No, except that I had a period where I was driving a car and all of a sudden I was 5 minutes back from where I was down the road before. And, I was like, what the hell just happened? And Megan gave me a little reading that revealed that there might have been some interesting, timeline manipulations occurred during that moment. But so I think this is a great time to turn over the mic and say, let's launch into the weirdness of time travel, and that it might actually be an ancient future thing.
I just love what you're saying about ancient future, because that's something that comes up for me a lot. And I actually have that on my site, Shaman Spirits, because I've always felt like, obviously there's a connection between the past and the future, but I have this weird feeling like there's going to be a time when it all kind of merges together, like the ancient past and our time now. I feel like there's just some sort of thing that's happening right now at this point in time. I don't know if it has to do with our point in time right now having a lot to do with being similar to a time in the past, like Atlantis possibly. But, I feel like there's a lot with that right now. And I think a lot of the ancient knowledge that we had at this certain time in the past is coming up for us again now, but possibly in a different way. On Project Camelot, Carrie Cassidy's show, she always talks about time. A lot of people saying that, she says a lot of people say that time is in a circle, but she's like, I understand it as time being in a spiral, and it just kind of spirals up. So it's like we come back around to the same point where we were at before, the same understandings, but it's in a new way. And so it just is always spiraling like this. And I thought that was so fascinating. And, what do you think about that? I know that there's, so much coming up right now. And I think our sciences now are starting to catch up with what, thought leaders from around the world have been saying for decades, millennia, about these ancient knowledges that have to do with metaphysics. And I think we're just starting to tap into our true potential. So what kind of ancient knowledge comes to mind for you guys that you would like to talk about? And I know we want to connect time travel with this. So
okay, well, I do have a little information on time travel from accessing the records and study and dabbling in it. So, there is a parallel between our time and Atlantis. And now Atlantis was far more advanced than we are. However, Atlantis fell twice, actually. Atlantis fell twice because of going against the rule of God and going against God's plan. And when the dark creation kind of outweighed the light there, that's when Atlantis went down. And there was another civilization that followed Atlantis that it was also more advanced than we are now. And that was the Mayan civilization. And you can kind of tie this back into the financial stuff that we were talking about, that Mathues was talking about as well. The Mayan civilization lasted for 500 years without a monetary system. So, they didn't have the type of exchange that we have today. It was a system that that basically everybody kind of contributed, and that's what paid for the infrastructure, but they really didn't operate within the financial system. So, but these two societies tie into what's going on now and what's going on in America. And one of the things that the hierarchy would like for people to understand is the importance of this country, because this is the first country, and it was prophesized for thousands of years before its existence, that this would be the next country that was ruled under the law of God and giving its people sovereign rights, which is something that hadn't happened for a long time. So what I've learned about time is that it's been described in many ways. I would say consciousness is a spiraling path where you come back to certain things and learn to a new degree. Time has been described by some people as a flat circle, but I would say that it acts more like a tube torus. So it's constantly collapsing into itself over and over again. Now, our history only accounts for about 27,000 years if you include Atlantis, which many people don't. Not many people outside of the fringe community accept Atlantis as a reality. And so with Atlantis, you only have about 27,000 years. Our human history for this cycle is actually 18 million years long, 19 million years. So there have been time wars that have been going on. And they have erased previous timelines. And right now, what's happening is we're having a convergence of all the timelines that made it to this point are collapsing into each other. So it's creating something strange around time that a lot of people can feel, especially if you're not as connected to it. So part of the evolution of consciousness is that you step beyond the time frame, the time constraint. You're no longer, as humans on Earth, we experience time in a linear fashion because it helps tether us to this experience. However, what I've also learned from going into the records is that there are different kinds of humans that have different relationships with time. And so some humans have unlocked the ability to time travel. And so they don't just incarnate in a linear fashion. They incarnate back and forth, or what I call time hoppers. And they go from the future to the past, from the future to the past. Now, within that timeline, there are pinnacle points. And so Matthew had mentioned something about the Mandela effect, right? So there are pinnacle points in the timeline that have to remain the same. If those change, the whole future changed. It can erase an entire civilization if these things change. So there have been time wars going on with people hopping back and forth that have that to try and maintain the space-time continuum, to keep things going. So you have people that hop back and forth in the timeline. You have the time wars that are going on. You have the time wardens. And then you also have people that are what I would say, the 12 monkeys referred to them as pinnacle people. So these are people that actually hold timelines together. They're like anchors in the timeline. So if these people don't exist with their specific DNA, time starts to warp. It starts to move. It stops being a solid thing. And so it's interesting that I brought this up, because what Matthew is holding up is an ancient alien artifact that we were given. This thing's been dated about 26,000 years old, was found in Mexico, and it's carved with what was once believed to be ancient Egyptian deities, but now we can see that they were known worldwide. And in fact, in the Mayan culture and in the Aztec culture, you had the feathered serpent god, who was also one of the masters that we know from our wisdoms, who's incarnated during this timeline. So they explained to me, I practice an art called psychometry, and psychometry is the reading of items and places. Everything has a history. Everything has information in it. So when I came in contact with these rocks, the people that made them explained to me that essentially they had began time traveling, and they had done it so much in the time wars that were occurring that they had broken down the space-time continuum from their dimension where they were from, and they got stuck here in a lower dimension, and they no longer had access to the technology that would bring them home. So they carved their history into these rocks to be found later so that people would know what humans were capable of. And so those are from back then. And so time is a very interesting thing.
I wanted to add something to that just because I also made a video. I went through hundreds of these tablets and I found some of the highlights, where you see stargates, where you see other planets, where you see, yes, obviously we're looking at Egyptian stuff on Mayan, artifacts. And are we in a new timeline? How come we only now are finding these relics that have this crossover where there's Egyptians, showing up on stone artifacts in, the Yucatan? What is going on here? And so, but there's a whole bunch of them. And I did make a video. You'll be able to find it. We'll put some links, but basically it reveals, yes, that, how do we know it was like 23,000 years ago? Because there was some resin on some of them where they glued in gems and stuff. And so 2 universities confirmed carbon dating 23,000 years old. And a lot of it, while it looks like stones that were from Egypt, there are others that are like polymer, like alien polymer. And so really exciting.
I just want to say you guys are like blowing my mind right now. Oh my gosh. Wow. So, I have a question for both of you. I'm curious to know what you think about how these people are time traveling. Is there, and I feel like there may be a bit of both of this, or it could be one or the other, but, are they time traveling through some sort of conscious ability where they can just kind of access this without, the use of anything physical? Or is this also some sort of physical technology that may have to do with, what Tesla was working on? Or is it both?
I'll answer first if you don't mind, just before I lose my train of thought. Well, it's both. I would say both. So the ability to bilocate anywhere within the universe, which means that you can kind of transcend time, is a high level of mastery. So there are really only like a handful of beings in our universe that have that capability. So more than that are time traveling. So there has to be some sort of physical device. So I came in contact with Tesla about 6 years ago when I was doing a reading for someone. He popped in. And that is when he told me about the time machine that he created. So about 100 years ago, he did actually create a time machine. And this time machine was utilized. Now, he showed up again in the last year and told me that it also was utilized in the creation of our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence. And so he traveled back to where our founding fathers were. And there was also one of the masters that contributed to those documents. It was Saint Germain, who happened to still be alive at the time. And these men time traveled and they saw what they needed to write for the Constitution to stand the test of time. So the American Constitution, and I think this is part of why the whole world is so tuned into what's going on here as well, is that this document is a protection of the freedoms and the sovereign rights for all the people on this planet. And it was created with the use of time travel. So yes, there are abilities to time travel with devices and also with just spiritual evolution.
These are just really incredible. These are just like found at this site, laying all over. This guy, Mark, had like buckets of these. He calls them potatoes, that have, the most interesting stories on them. So again, I invite you to check out the video where I pulled out all the highlights of the most interesting ones.
I think this is really fascinating about what you were saying earlier, Mathues, about how these just kind of appeared recently. And, Ben Chastain, who's actually here right now, I don't know if he wants to pop in, but he did a presentation on the Mandela effect this last weekend at Disclosurecon. And, there's definitely some new ones in there that was really blowing my mind. And, I've been wondering, was there this sort of Mandela effects that are happening right now? Is this because time travel was just kind of discovered a little more recently, and now all of a sudden all of this is happening? Maybe more with our government, or what are your thoughts on that? Because I feel that there's definitely changes in the timelines.
I'd love to make one comment. I was telling some friends about it, right? And here's how malleable the reality is. And so what are the things that are causing it to happen? Is it the collective consciousness? Because literally, like the one about the Bible, right? Go pick up old dusty King James version, anybody's house, flip it open. What is it? 1611, the lion shall lay down with the lamb, right? And the coloring books, and everybody's familiar with that. In fact, when you search the internet for lion and lamb, it'll come up, but it has different words there on the image that say, the wolf shall dwell with the calf. And I was telling somebody to check it out, and I was checking it out with them, and it doesn't say that anymore either. It's changed. Yeah. Now it says the wolf shall dwell with the lamb. So it's like a crossover back to part of the original. Like, what is going on, right? Come on over here.
Just having a party here today. Right?
Yeah, seriously, because we're all in Disclosurecon.
Yeah.
There's a few in the Bible too. Another one doesn't mention the three kings, the three wise men.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't have any numbers at all. It just says the wise men came over.
Wait, what?
Yeah, there's no more three wise men. It's just the wise men came. And then the other one is
the lamb, the wine one.
The wineskins are bottles now. Is that the one you're referring to?
I think that, there's three of them that are.
I don't think they had bottles back then.
Oh, it's okay. For some people, this isn't a big deal, but I'm just used to calling it Revelations, but it's just Revelation without the S.
Oh my God.
So that's the other one.
It's there's been so many changes that our Father.
Or the word matrix is now in there.
5 times. Our Father has changed as well.
That one is a little confusing because it's the recent translation.
Okay.
So you could kind of say
that
like, okay,
slide through the cracks.
Yeah. Because the King James one doesn't have the word matrix, but it's just hard to say. But it's kind of like what you were saying. It's like, what's really happening here? Is it a shift of consciousness? And then you're asking the question about time travel. And the thing about time, it's not linear, right? So someone could create time, like a time machine in the future, and change our past now. So it's like, it's really hard to say. But I think that there is like almost like a temporal war going on, where you have like the negative, whether they're extraterrestrials, like the negative ones, or the negative humans going back and trying to change the timeline in their favor. Then, obviously I think there's a divine presence.
This is reminding me of Loki, this Loki series.
Yeah,
you guys
that's a good way
that?
of saying it,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things going
Time
on.
Wardens.
And then you have like other things like CERN that are doing some really crazy experiments. So there's just, but I think it's all aspects. I think there's positive things. I think that there's negative things too. So,
you were saying something about the Constitution. I wanted to go off that a little bit. Someone was, from what I heard when I was looking at occult knowledge in regards to the Constitution, they were saying when it was written, they were saying that some sort of being appeared in the room when it was taking place, the signing of it. Do you guys know anything about that?
Well, I do know that. So when the Declaration was being signed, there was a hesitancy. I mean, they were afraid to put their name on it because they were about to commit treason, and an unknown man, an unknown gentleman, stood up and gave a very moving speech, and that is what got the men to sign. And that gentleman was Saint Germain.
They called him the professor back then.
Yeah.
He was a cloaked guy, but it has come out that it was Saint Germain.
Yeah. So there is a spiritual component to the creation of these documents, and it has to do with the law of God. And like Atlantis had these like 10 posts, or these posts, and they had or I think there was like 4 of them. I can't remember. They were in the center of they had 10 kings, and these posts had the law of God on them, and the 10 kings agreed to rule based on these laws. And when one of them started getting greedy and started wanting to dominate other people and get more money, that's when that began the fall of Atlantis. And of course, there was also other weird stuff going on with like experimentation and hybridization. And
I heard there's a lot with some dark priests. That
yeah, and it happens. It's happened. And but I think the most important takeaway from all of this time travel stuff, which is absolutely fascinating. Like, I mean, I've actually felt the timelines collapse. I'm not in my original timeline. I was just talking to my friends about this the other day. My foot size has changed up and down. And also I was 1.25 inches taller before one of the timelines collapsed. And so there's been changes to people's personalities around me. And so, and a lot of fascinating Mandela effect stuff that you can kind of tap into. I remember quite a few of them. And I think the more tuned in you are to it, the more you can feel these things. However, the important takeaway from all of this is that none of this is real. And even Jesus made reference to us living inside of an illusion. And so that is helpful in navigating it, because when you remember that none of it is real, you can step beyond your fear, and fear and doubt are really what keep you trapped in the lower dimensions. And we talk about stuff surfacing again. The reason why Atlantis had never been found before was because it wasn't in the third dimension. It was never in the third dimension. And so now that we're raising our vibration higher and higher, it's starting to surface. They're finding pyramids in Antarctica where Atlantis would be because of pole shifts. So some of these things are starting to surface again, including some of these artifacts that we're finding that wouldn't have been around simply because we weren't in the same vibration as them. In fact, there's a lot of exploration going on in space right now, and people are, starting to take interest in our neighboring planets, and they believe them to be desolate wastelands that are not inhabitable. However, they are terraformed and populated in other dimensions. There are a lot of people on Venus. It is definitely a populated planet. We've had a lot of visitors from there. And so they're very, very much tied into what's going on here on Earth, because there are basically spiritual mirrors. So they're the advanced kind of version of what we are. And so the same goes for Mars. Mars is terraformed in other dimensions, and it looks a lot like this planet.
Wow. There's one question I want to ask you guys in regards to the Mandela effect and these different timelines. And that is the people that are around me. I wonder this a lot. So if you're around someone that's, say, maybe anchored in more into a different timeline, does that mean that, who you're seeing, the person you're seeing is kind of more of an echo of them, and they're not even like a part of them still has to be here, even though they're more anchored in another timeline? Like, how does that work? That's something that I'm always wondering.
Well,
Go ahead.
I think, because none of it's real, no one else is real either. So it's like they're just a part of the illusion that we're living in, right? So yeah, I think they're anchored into different places, because I have seen the people around me change. So complete 180s in their personalities. And then we also have people that I refer to as non-player characters, and I'm sure you've had conversations with these people, but there's just no consciousness there. There's nothing. The lights are on, but nobody is home, and you can't really tap into them because there's nothing there. There's not. So a lot of people are filled in, and this is something that I've been kind of contemplating lately. This is just a theory, because I'm watching all this craziness happen in the world. But right now we're having a disruption in our supply chain because there aren't any workers. However, in the States, there are no more checks being cut. So where is everybody? Where did everybody go? Why aren't there workers why are the industries collapsing because there aren't any workers? Where is everybody?
Do you have anything to say to that, Matthew?
Certainly. Well, I thought there was a plan to keep everybody at home, so the stimulus checks ran out. Isn't that what was part of the reason initially?
Checks going out?
I haven't received a stimulus check recently. I keep hearing about
But
it.
I thought Sleepy Joe was whispering like, "I got you 1.9 trillion. Oh, he was talking to his cronies. We ripped off some more money. Oh, okay. I see. Didn't end up in our pockets. Anyway, yes, not to be too controversial, but what on earth is going on the planet?
Well, I want to know where the people are. Where are they? Like, I was doing I went into one of those float spas. And I did like complete, sensory deprivation, no light, no sound, just floating. And I did see this for a second time, people being removed from our reality. And I think it operates kind of like a Mandela effect where you just don't know they existed. Like you don't know they're missing because you don't remember they existed. But I don't understand. Like I live across the street from a Whole Foods, and there's not any workers there. They've not reopened their restaurant or bar, even though our state has been open for over a year. So where is everybody? That's the question. Like, I don't know. Nobody's been able to answer this for me. I don't know where they've gone, but how are they living? Because there's no money. Like, I don't know. I just feel like people are missing. So I'm curious. Like, to me, it feels like, speaking of revelations, Matthew doesn't agree with me about revelations, but I think we're living in the middle of it. I had a dream about a month ago that the seventh seal was broken. And during the seventh seal, there's a rapture, and there are cataclysmic events, and there is a silence from the heavens. And then we move into the seven trumpets and then the seven bowls. And so Matthew has a different idea about revelations, but what I'm looking at and what I've been hearing about since age myself here, since I was, back in high school, about like the mark of the beast and all of this stuff's going on. Like, this closely resembles what's in that book. Like, I've been studying it. I didn't grow up religiously, so I never read the Bible, but I've been studying it now because I'm like, because of the dream about the seventh seal and the state of the world today, it feels to me like we're in the middle of it. It feels like it's happening now. And I feel like everybody's kind of making their decision. And that goes into this whole timeline thing. I think that people made a decision back in November when they voted, and what kind of future they wanted to experience. And I think that people have been deciding over this last year. And we talk about changing timelines and moving into the unity consciousness. I believe that it's the believers in freedom and sovereignty and the believers in God that will tip the scales. Not even necessarily the New Age community, because I think so much of that is like so messed up from government infiltration and a lack of self-awareness and self-honesty, that I really think that the ones that will tip the scales for us, if there is a tipping of the scales to be done, will be the ones that believe in freedom and sovereignty and God.
And how do you feel this will happen? I mean, is this a coming together of everyone waking up consciously and coming together, or is there like some physical movement that you feel would come out of that would need to tip the scales? You have an answer to that.
Well, tipping the scales is definitely where it's at. We need all of the people that want their freedom and their sovereignty to, raise their hand and show up, in a collective that's making a difference. Because I'd like to see everybody raise their hand or run out into the street that voted for Joe. We all know that there was an election tampering, and very few people did. I think most of us are consensus on that. And there are things happening behind the scenes with 50 states that are going to begin counting. That much I can tell you from some intel. So we're going to see the facts there. But, the opposition does know that collective agreement does shape reality. So, the bad side of the CIA and these different programs, that have been ran on us are designed to get us all believing that the sky is pink, and then it is pink, and so it's definitely up to us to be the change and to stand up and voice our truth. And so I'm happy to do so.
I think everyone here in this room right now. It definitely feels the same way. And I know a lot of you in the chat tonight. I'm looking at the private chat and it's just been going off. I know everyone's pretty mind blown by this conversation here. And I'm sorry I haven't been keeping up or bringing up any comments tonight.
Okay, let's see if there's any questions.
Oh, okay. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and throw in the comments if you're in my YouTube chat right now. I'm just been kind of looking over and I know you guys are just going crazy right now. Matthew Meinhardt brings up a good point here. In the Bible, the curse of knowledge of good and evil is the problem. How do you feel about that Eden story? I know I've heard so many different accounts of the different types of symbolism in it and what it could actually mean that I don't really know, what is the true interpretation of it. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? And does that even relate to what we're talking about?
Sure, I can comment on that. I mean, it depends what ancient scripture you're reading, right? So the Gnostic scriptures teaches something entirely different. But I surmise it all as really there is no ultimate, good and evil. It's really just a choice between service to self and service to others. And really, ultimately, everything needs to be in balance on the mind to the heart, the male to the female. The Gnostic scriptures teaches the way to enter the kingdom of heaven is to, make those things, the two become one is the final phrase of that. And so ultimately, this is not about, everything is man-made in essence. And so one remark that I wanted to make about Revelations is there's just so many books that have been written and things that have been revealed that these stories have been told over and over. In my book, I also talk about Cain and Abel is really Osiris and Set. Set killed Osiris, Yep, that book. And so you really have the astrotheology of forever. So if there's millions of years of civilizations that have been lost, and I believe the Great Pyramids and all that are millions of years old, you have these stories that are being told over and over again about the cosmological divinity. So the gospel in the stars tells a greater story. So there's a lot of reference in Revelations to that, the red dragon and all this kind of stuff has to do with an alignment to Draco, the star system and all these kinds of things where there's plenty of evidence that Revelations is a retelling of the Book of the Dead. And so, yeah, sure, there could be a lot of correlation that when these Kali Yugas and everything come full circle and you have, a grand clock striking midnight, that there's a lot of correlation to the end and the beginning. And so it's quite likely that there is something that could be, talked about as, yes, the seventh seal is cracked and we're in the end times, which is satisfying to think that we can begin with something new.
Wow. This has been a really epic conversation, and I'm so glad I came to meet with you guys and discuss this. We have about a little over 10 minutes left. So is there anything you would like to say to wrap this up and kind of bring this to one central point?
Sure. In the Revelation thing, perhaps revelations come about every time there is an end of a cycle. I mean, we've seen cycles end biblically and they all have some sort of cataclysm involved in it. And we've seen the sinking of Lemuria and Atlantis and the end of the Mayans kind of just disappeared. And so perhaps it follows the same pattern every time it does end, and it's been documented. So what I would say the big takeaway from all of this again is the recognition that none of this is real. I think that the fear kind of keeps us trapped in this reality. And I do think that we do have the ability to move forward, but it requires us to start to be in control of our thoughts and our feelings, because our thoughts and feelings are creating this reality. And so we have to kind of take responsibility for them. And we have what right now is a world that has brought up all of our shadows. It's bringing up all of our deepest fears so that we can release them and be in a higher vibration. And so there is definitely a concerted effort and an agenda to keep people pitted against each other. And so especially when you look at the political arena, there's this thing where people are wearing masks and people are not wearing masks, and people are getting vaccinated and people are not getting vaccinated. I personally don't want to put a muzzle on or like put anything into my body, my choice, right? But like I have compassion for those that have a differing opinion, because there is a lot of mind control going on this planet. There are a lot of people that are glued to their television sets that are in fear, that are being brainwashed into certain belief systems and ideologies. There's a lot of people whose heartstrings have been pulled and they've been manipulated into making these choices for themselves, thinking that they're doing the right thing for the people that they love or to protect other people. And so they are not our enemies. These people are not our enemies. And it's hard to like, you go in the store and you see the people with the masks on and they cower from you, and they're afraid to be around you, walking around, breathing with your face out. And you can have a reaction to that and you can judge them. Like, I'm just like, you're just going to have to deal with it, world. This is my face and you're going to see it. And so, but there's, we can have a reaction, we can have a judgment, or we can have compassion and love. And we can stop with the separation, because that separation is keeping us in this duality. So you simply must stand up for your rights. You simply must stand up for your sovereign ability. So if they want to wear the mask, awesome. If they want to take the jab, awesome. Just don't make me do it. Don't try and don't ask me to do anything of that nature, because I have a right to my own freedom and my own decisions. And so that goes into just protecting your rights and not defending yourself, and not getting caught up in the whole separation and the anger, and turning towards joy and love and fear and the higher vibrational feelings that will lift us out of this place. So there are a lot of people that are getting sick and dying and being hurt by this, and they don't need us standing on their grave saying, I told you so. That's not really what needs to happen. So we just need to have love. Like, love has always been the answer, and love for ourselves allows us to love others, because we're no longer operating from this wounded place. And this place is crazy. This place is crazy. And there are a lot of people that are working really hard to kind of reset the table and make it a fair game to play, because it hasn't been fair for a long time. People have had their elbows on the table and they've made a mess of the place, but we create a better reality through raising our own vibration. And it's possible to do that. Just one person can. Jesus changed the way the whole game was operated through his own ascension process. You can do that for others by being a pillar of light and spreading your own love. And so that is what I have to say about that.
Thank you, Megan. Wow, that was incredible. We have about 6-7 minutes.
Oh.
But I just want to say, going off of that I feel that all, what she was saying about staying in that love energy and really avoiding stepping into fear and doubt and those more negative emotions is so important right now. And I think the more work we do in ourselves, the more that is shown in the collective. And I definitely, that's something that comes up in my conversations on the show a lot. And it's really incredible, but I mean, maybe it's just, you doing the work in yourself is what shows up for you in your illusion of this reality. But I definitely noticed that. And, it's really incredible. And I always tell people, it goes with, like, isn't that like an ancient saying by like Gandhi or something? Be the change you wish to see in the world. Yeah. So I feel there's, that's really so true. And I think it's important to do your own work within.
For sure. And I love it that the Arizona sheriffs are saying freedom of choice first. So we're feeling pretty free over here. But, so all the ancient scriptures, they all echo the same thing, really. And that is that your thoughts create your reality, which is so obvious. And so I learned that at a very, very early age in my teens. I discovered, Jane Roberts' Seth material, and, it was definitely echoing my thoughts, which were, you can be anything you want. You can do anything you wish. And so I've been envisioning for a long time a, utopian heaven on earth. And we're busy behind the scenes making that happen. But we need your help. We need everybody to believe that, transformation of the planet is possible. And so that's my final word. Freedom is only a choice away.
Wow. Thank you so much for inviting me into your home to do my show. And I really appreciate you guys. This has been a really amazing conversation. Definitely would like to do it again at some point. Before we sign off here, I want to show you guys Matthew's website. Yeah, so let me go ahead and pull this up here. This is stargatecodes.com, and this actually links to all of his other sites. This also links to the Divine Mrs. M's website as well. And that website, what's that website?
It's divinemsm.com, divinemsm.com. And there's just like videos and stuff on there. I'm no longer taking clients. So, but I'll be making announcements shortly about what's coming, retreats, and I'll be taking on some full-time students.
Amazing. And I know you guys run some really incredible workshops and conferences out here that I've been a part of. So definitely check out this website and stay tuned with the updates there. Also, the Divine Mrs. M here has a YouTube channel, which is the Divine Mrs. M. So I definitely recommend going over there and subscribing to that. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me tonight. I'm going to go ahead and look through the comments again and see if there's anything I should bring up here before we go, because I guess we have a few more minutes here. Ben, did you have any words you want to say before we sign off here? Okay, that's fine. Because I started the sign-off process a little early. To the Aftermath audience, thank you so much for listening in. It's good to be on this radio show, and, I'm still getting, my foot wet with the whole radio thing. I keep forgetting that, this is also only audio and not just on a show. So, still getting used to that, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying being a radio show host, and the Aftermath FM crew is really incredible. I hope to be on some other shows that is on this app in the future. So thanks everyone for being a part of this, and it's good to see everyone here in the chat tonight. So thank you all for being here. I know I've only been doing one show a week on my YouTube channel at the moment, just because I've had so much going on, but I actually did some interviews with Travis Walton from, obviously the movie Fire in the Sky was made about him, and a petroglyph expert, which I went over on another show this week, but I'm actually going to bring that up and make a show of that just to show you guys. So I'm going to edit a little episode about that for you guys and get that out there. And before I go, I'll go ahead and You guys, I'm back. Oh my god, I am so sorry about that. We just got rid of that from around the audience, but I'm just gonna pop in here and say goodbye to all of you. Where's my mic at? Sorry, my laptop just died. Apparently, I plugged my laptop into the wrong area. So I'm so sorry about that, you guys. But I hope you really enjoyed the show. And sorry, I disappeared for a minute there. Please go ahead and join me next week. Every Friday or every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, I'm going live on here. Yeah, I did. I got abducted. Your Living God said, thought you got abducted. I did actually. I think that may have happened. I have some missing time there. So pretty crazy. And Matthew and Megan, apparently they came aboard the ship. They're gone. Their chairs are gone and everything. So that's pretty crazy. All right, you guys. Well, I guess I'll see you next week, and hopefully I can get some more episodes out before then. I have some things I want to edit, so I'll see you all soon. Until next time on Apollo's Odyssey, over and out.